Welcome to the Women and Wealth podcast with Esther Sabo. Esther is a respected leader in the field of personal financial advice with over 25 years of experience. After going through her own significant and challenging life-changing events, she overcame fear and self-doubt to launch her own successful advisory firm. Now Esther is ready to share her practical and personal experiences to help other women clear their hurdles and brave life's transitions. In this way, she inspires women to lead fulfilling and confident lives.
Hello and welcome to Women and Wealth with Esther Sabo from Gates Pass Advisors. Today I'm really excited. Esther has a guest on the show, and that is Elena Smirnov-Otis. Russian-born Elena has been working in the financial services industry in the U.S. since 1999. Elena specializes in designing and implementing advanced life insurance-based planning strategies for successful entrepreneurs, families, trusts, and businesses, both in the U.S. and internationally, with a strong focus on protection. Esther, good morning. How are you?
Oh, Eric, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, and I'm so excited and looking forward to our conversation today with Elena. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Elena. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you. I'm excited to be here, part of this podcast.
Yes. Esther, I've got to ask, what prompted you to bring Elena on the show today?
Well, you've spoken about Elena's background, which is extensive, and we are actually not going to be talking through the technical issues of insurance planning. I know that will cause a lot of people to go, oh, darn. But what we're actually talking about is, like me, Elena is a professional in the financial planning and advice industry and who has gone through and is going through her own levels of transition and utilizing her own knowledge that she knows technically to her own personal situation. And it's specific to the area of long-term care. And going through a long-term care process and that transition with her loved one, her husband. So, Elena, would you tell us about what is the situation with your husband? When did it come up? What are you experiencing?
I would say that in my life, I have made certain decisions in the past. And looking back, some of them were good, some of them were not so good, but definitely the decision to buy long-term care insurance policy for myself and my husband was a good one. My husband has been diagnosed at age 60 with chronic illness. It has no cure. His health is deteriorating, has been, and he's expected to go downhill, essentially. At this point, it affects his motor skills. He already walks with a walker. He has problems getting dressed. We have to monitor him taking showers and other activities, so-called activities of daily living.
And when he's 60 now, how old was he and how old were you when you first started seeing symptoms?
He was diagnosed at age 60. So it's been a few years since.
Okay.
He had shown some symptoms, weird symptoms, a couple of years prior to being diagnosed. We had no idea what was going on. So a lot of doctors, consults, and anxiety and uncertainty, because when you're not well, you're not healthy, you are not happy necessarily.
No, and it's scary too, right? You don't know, all of a sudden things are shifting and you don't have an explanation.
That's correct, yes. So it was to a degree a relief when he got his diagnosis, and it was not the worst one that we were also looking at. At this point, he has been on a long-term care insurance claim, meaning we went through a process of filing for a claim, and he's been receiving benefits for the last, 3 years.
And when you first went to consider purchasing the insurance, how did he respond?
Ooh, good question. It could be controversial. I would imagine, who wants to think about death and disability and being ill? But we have to plan for that. We have to be saying, if I don't die prematurely, I will get old. My husband did not want to purchase any long-term care insurance, no life insurance. I had to twist his arm, so to speak.
What was his reason? What was his
the
resistance?
The resistance was around belief, misguided belief that insurance will not pay. And I had to convince him that, this is something that both of us probably will need. And unfortunately, and I was thinking it will be 20, 30 years before we need it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was just a few short years before we had to file for a claim. And I would like to share some experiences because for those of us who have long-term care insurance policies, who purchased them in the past, it is reasonable to expect that one day, hopefully, we will be old by then, but we will be filing for claims with long-term care insurance companies. So to manage expectations, I would like to maybe tell you a few stories or a few tips. Definitely having long-term care insurance policy is better than an alternative of not having it. Because you do have another extra pocket of income tax-free cash to help you address very expensive long-term care.
So what you're saying is, your husband was resistant because he felt it wasn't going to pay. And I hear this too from clients considering it, that, it's the premiums are too expensive and then it's not going to pay. So we will continue down that thread of what your experience actually has been with in terms of paying. And then what you're saying is, okay, if one doesn't have the insurance, then one has to rely on their own assets or on the prayer, really, that they won't need it. And what you're saying is with the insurance, one of the benefits of it is it's a tax-free pool of money that can be used to cover these expenses.
That's correct. So when you purchased your policy, your insurance agent probably went through the language of the policy, and you probably know nothing still.
Right, exactly. It's a lot of gobbledygook.
It is a legal contract. So if you think your family or your own situation is such that you may be going on a claim sometime in the near future, meaning you have been diagnosed, you have been experiencing certain disabilities in your life, I would strongly encourage you to read the policy and probably talk to someone else who knows how to read this legal language, okay?
Right. So it's like connecting with either the broker that you worked with on it or something, just to regularly review the policy and what it says.
Right. Someone who knows indeed what this means on practical level for you. You should call the company and you should ask for a claim kit. Even though you may not be filing a claim right away, but the package that they sent to you, and it's a thick package, again, of legal documents, will give you an idea of what should be done in order for you to qualify for receiving benefits. So read it carefully, talk to someone. So long-term care insurance typically covers at least 2 or more so-called activities of daily living when people need help with toilet and bathing, getting dressed, transferring, eating, and ambulating. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm forgetting probably something else. Sorry.
And what was your husband's? Like, what were the 2 in his case?
So his illness affects his motor skills.
Yeah.
So dressing, bathing, and occasional transferring, so helping. If he falls down, he has very difficult time getting up off the floor.
And it's really hard to pick somebody up, right? They're not easy to pick up once they're down.
I hurt myself on several occasions.
And that is what happens often to the
caregivers.
caregiver.
Correct.
They hurt themselves trying to be a caregiver to their spouse.
Right.
Or parent.
So, again, do go through the language of the policy and do talk to advisors and try to understand which two or more of activities of daily living will qualify you for a claim, and understand the waiting period requirements. You have to pay out of pocket typically for a certain period of time defined in your policy, which means you have to hire a caregiver and pay out of pocket and show to the insurance company that you satisfied so-called waiting period.
And how did you do that? How did you show them? What did you have to provide?
You have to provide certifications that those are licensed caregivers. This was one of my mistakes. In the past, I thought I was qualifying. We hired someone, but in fact, they were not certified caregivers.
Yes.
Which means those days of care that they have provided did not count toward total number of days required.
And that I have seen happen with clients as well, where they hire someone to help, but they don't necessarily want to, not to saying that this was your reasoning, but they don't necessarily want to go through an agency or something like that because, it's like, but they're going to charge me all this extra money to do that. And I can get so-and-so in for $15 an hour or something.
Well, sounds good. You will be saving money. However, you will not be saving money. You could have had your claim started earlier, sooner, had you used certified caregivers. So do work with a reputable agency and do make sure that you have good people taking care of your loved ones. There are a lot of resources on the web. The state, wherever you live, surely will provide you with a list of licensed caregivers and agencies, and a lot of very helpful information is also on the web. What I found also that getting doctors to respond promptly and to sign the required documents, forms promptly.
How was that for you? That can be challenging.
It's been challenging. It still is, because once you are on claim, you have to verify every year that you still are eligible for the benefits. So your doctors have to indeed sign again that a person is still in need of help.
And what does this make you angry with the insurance company at all? Do you say, gosh, it's obvious he's still sick. Why do I have to go through all of this?
I would encourage everyone who is going through a very stressful time, your loved one or yourself, you are going through disability. Your life has changed. Expect that the claim process will take time, and be very patient and courteous and proactive, and work with your doctors, with your claim representative at the insurance company. The attitude should be, please help me. We need your help. How can I help to expedite the process? And by the way, the process altogether in our case, took about 11 months. That's
my goodness. Right.
From me starting the process and going through one requirement after another, the insurance companies are not charitable organizations. They are in business of paying legitimate claims. So they do not want the system to be abused. They do want to verify all of the facts, and they will pay the benefits to those who truly qualify. So
when you say it took 11 months, does that mean you were out of pocket yourself for 11 months?
We were continuing to pay insurance premiums during the claim review. And those premiums were refunded. However, the claim was approved and the benefits started 11 months, on the date. That was about 11 months since we first
and I think this is one of the areas where long-term care gets a bad reputation, because the expectation is, it's like, okay, I've filled the 3-month wait period. Shouldn't it start right on the, day one of the 4th month?
Well, 3 months or 90 days, actually, typically. It could be that you are collecting those days, like in our case, every other day.
Right. That's a very good point. So you weren't having care every single day.
That's correct.
And you have to go, yes.
And we went through this readjustment and finding a trusted caregiver and figuring out the system. It took time. And again, I know the industry, I know the language. Still, I had to learn and adjust and manage my own expectations through that.
And even with this, you're also dealing with your loved one who is navigating a challenging illness himself. You're navigating what this is meaning for your life and future plans at the same time.
Right.
And also this third, and even though you have the experience in the industry, so you've gone through this before for other people,
right?
But it's very different when you're having those emotional challenges.
That's right. And again, 11 months, my husband was not necessarily very cooperative, saying, they will never pay the claim. You see what we have to go through. And I had to be, yes, indeed, persistent and patient and believe in the fact that this will be there, that it will happen, it would happen. It did. And it made huge difference in our lives, financially and otherwise.
How did it make a huge difference?
I would say long-term care event affects not just a person, but affects other people around this person.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So I worked very much part-time when my husband first went on disability and then went on long-term care insurance claim. It's been hard. It would have been much worse had we not had insurance in place.
It's been hard because you had to reduce your work hours.
Yes, we were spending money.
Yes.
Instead of making money, instead of investing, we were disinvesting.
Right. You were pulling out of other assets.
Right.
And that also creates anxiety on top of
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So life events like that will happen. You have to be prepared. And you have no idea when. Mm-hmm. And what will happen and when it will happen, that will affect your life and your financial future. Mm-hmm. So I would like to say that there is one very good book that I just read last month.
Oh, what is it? Share.
The book is called Being Mortal. And it's written by an American surgeon, Indian American surgeon, Atul Gawande.
How do you spell that? Gawande. Okay.
Being Mortal talks about aging and living good life till the very end, till you die. And it's an eye-opening book because I live through some of the events described in this book. I know this is so true. And I agree with Time magazine that says this should be mandatory reading for every American. It helps you to think about very, very important questions. Such as how do you want to be treated? How do you want to die? How do you want to be taken care of in your older age? And maybe it's not during your old age years.
Right.
It could be disability that affects a younger person.
Yeah.
And now you're living different life.
Circumstances, yeah.
Such a good book. Highly, highly recommended. And again, I will say this is hopefully the scenario for me as well. Meaning, I do not want to die young.
Right.
I do want to live to old age. But with old age, we see people are getting frail or ill or financially devastated. Mm-hmm. So you have to be thinking forward.
Yes.
And planning for life events again in your life.
And I know one of the things that I've appreciated in knowing you, Elena, in going through this, is you made a really significant decision about your housing because of this.
Oh, yes.
And can you tell a little bit about that? Because that's significant also. You've been so resilient through this really challenging time.
Well, thank you. I will say that when my husband first went on disability and he was imprisoned essentially in our condo, we lived in a condo, and he could not drive. He lost his driving privilege, so to speak. He was staying, if I were away to go to work, he was staying at home alone, and I was constantly worried. What did he eat? What if he fell?
What if he fell? Right.
And it affected me. We both were very much depressed.
And how old were you? What approximately?
I was late 40s.
Yeah, very young.
Early 50s at that point. And my way of thinking about that was, this is not working. It's not going to work. So we actually started looking at independent retirement communities as a place to live. I went through a transition in my own mind.
Yeah.
Okay, we will have to find something suitable for both of us, because I didn't have an idea of just sending him somewhere.
Right. You weren't going to split up your home in that way.
Right. So I started looking at local facilities, and some of them were either too expensive or just when I walked in and I'm like, oh, I do not belong here. Definitely this is something that I couldn't accept.
Right.
But after a few months of looking here and there, found a facility that we are still both, we've been living there for the last almost 4 years. And this is an independent retirement facility here locally that is run by a family. It has lovely building. It has very good staff and management. The family that runs this facility is truly committed to making the best for aging citizens.
Right, like they're giving you both a really good experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is expensive. It's definitely something that we can afford with the help of long-term care insurance.
Right.
And caregivers that we hire to provide home care for my husband. So yes, you have to adjust as life happens. You have to navigate those decisions in your life. And I'm sure your story will be different from mine. However, so far, that's been my experience.
Yeah, I mean, the details could be different, but what I really appreciate of what you have shared with us today is that things do happen. None of us want them to happen. And the insurance is there, not just of this, profit-making engine of a corporation. As you said, they're not charitable organizations. They are there to make sure that those who are on claim are appropriately on claim. But without that policy, you would not have the choices available to you, the support available to you, and the ability for you and your husband to live the engaged life that you're living. I really appreciate that you said when you were in your condo and quote unquote independently living, that independence was at a huge cost because you felt like he was imprisoned.
The quality of life has changed significantly when we moved to an independent retirement community. And it's changed for me in a way. I get 3 meals a day. My husband, I know he's fed.
And you know that if he falls and you're off working and I know you have other pursuits. Elena is very active as a singer in a choir. Yes.
So this is one of my passions, yes. And again, looking back thank you, choir singing, it's a community and it's something that I had sacred. I said, I will give up everything else, but I have to be doing something for myself. So choir singing was still something that was for me, even during the darkest and most stressful times. So back to pursuing my business
Yes.
and other passions in life. Yes, life has somewhat better quality because we are in a facility like that, and because, again, we had done some planning in the past prior to these events unraveling.
I really appreciate you coming in today and sharing about this, Elena. So, Eric, as you can hear, this wasn't a technical discussion per se, but a real life experience, not only of quote unquote any consumer on long-term care insurance, but a woman this is her profession. She has worked in the area of insurance for 20 plus years. And then all of a sudden, as in my experience too, working in the field of financial planning and advice and support for clients and portfolio, both of us got hit out of left field with, in my case, my husband diagnosed in his middle 50s and then passing away, hers with a serious diagnosis also at age 60, and how that can flip your life upside down. But with proper prior planning, and it can really help one navigate through really difficult situations.
There is one expectation I have in my life. Hopefully it will come true. I want to get old.
Right.
I live with people right now. My neighbors are in their 80s, 90s, and getting close to 100. I'm the youngest one in the facility. I'm the one who works. They are all retired, happily retired, somewhat happily retired, because they have money, they still have their minds, and they have enough mobility to stay in this particular independent retirement facility. So I want to be old one day.
Old and vibrantly old.
Well,
as you are
right
now, as a youth. Not as
right.
old.
So this is what I want to see in my future, and I'm planning for that.
Mm-hmm.
One day, we all will die. No hurry.
Right.
Elena, I want to thank you so much for telling your story. And this is something that Esther has done time and time again on these podcasts, is share from the heart. And for you to open up and be vulnerable, but show a story to me that's all about commitment, right? Your commitment to provide for each other, you and your husband, by buying that insurance, even though you had to drag him along with that decision, which is what most men have to be drug along for a while, including myself. I'll tell you, it's a story of commitment, committing to that, committing to staying with him during this process, finding a facility that fit both of your needs for the time being. And thank you so much for being open and vulnerable with us and the audience. I just sat back and was just absolutely blown away by, again, a story that something rocked your world, just like Esther said, out of left field, just clean out of the blue, had no idea that it was going to happen, and you were prepared. You had planned, and now you guys are living a better life because of it. So thank you again for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. And if people need to reach you, you do the insurance planning for business owners, for successful entrepreneurs, for families, for businesses, both in the United States and internationally. I believe the best way to get in touch with you is via your email at Elena, ELENA, at GAPS, like gaps in coverage, GAP as in Peter, S-USA.com. You can Google Elena because she's the only Elena Smirnov-Otis in the whole country. So you can find her and speak with her. And as we're recording this, Eric, as we close this for today, it is in the early days of March. We're experiencing a lot of market volatility due to the coronavirus and concerns that and the oil price shocks will put us into recession. It could. This is normal in terms of what happens in a capitalistic economy. And we are here, we're working with our clients, we're navigating with them through these times that we consider that will likely be short-lived as this coronavirus and the oil prices navigate through for the next year. But we are present, and we're also present for the clients who have events like what has happened to me and Elena and other women that I've worked with to help go through the turbulent times. So if you need to reach us and just talk about what is happening and what you might need, the best is our website, which is gatespassadvisors.com, and let's set up a time and talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stay well, everybody.
Absolutely. Again, Esther, this is fantastic. Thank you so much. Elena, I am looking forward to you taking this podcast international. So I encourage you to share this with everyone that you have on your list so they can hear your voice, hear your story if they haven't heard it already. Again, I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank the audience. Thank you for listening to the Women in Wealth podcast with Esther Sabo. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Esther comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it so much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. And this is a great one to share. It's just a heartfelt story that's true, that's real life, and things like this happen. And now you can find out how to overcome those things and live a better life because of the planning that you do. Again, thanks so much for listening today. For everyone at Gates Pass Advisors, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Women and Wealth podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you receive notifications of new podcasts as they become available. Check out the website at www.gatespassadvisors.com for more information. This content is developed from sources believed to be providing accurate information. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult legal or tax professionals for specific information regarding your individual situation. The opinions expressed and material provided are for general information and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.